I'm alive! What the fuck am I doing? Hey! Where am I? Next episode. I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. Why do we trust me with this shit? Howling! Arr! This everyday tale started like any other. With violence. Someone woke up and chose violence. Ow, just the sun rising. Well, that was disappointing. I'm pretty sure at some point Aoko's gonna choose violence. It's her. Let's be real here. The morning sun alerted Sojiro that day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to. And an unkempt garden made for an unhappy Sojiro. Luckily, today was his day off from all of his part-time jobs. So he gets to clean the house. It was the perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. Wait, how did he get the day off from 60 part-time jobs that he manages to have? Can we be real here for a second? He's got 60. At least. There was one problem, however. The mansion grounds were vast. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, the area around the front door had been neglected too. To tend to these problems thoroughly, he would have to work on them week in, week out. Alright, first, let's level things out. In an ideal world, his task would only take a day, but for its enormity, and for the moment, Sojiro decided to set foot into the mansion's wilderness and evict the weeds. Wasting none of the early light, he started tackling the ones around the mansion. But, his estimation, he would clear the 4-count courtyard, backyard, then take a small rest. Alice! What are you doing? She's admiring his handiwork. What's gotten into him? Beats me. I doubt he's out there for fun. It was just before noon in the sunroom. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find Aoko sitting down with a fashion magazine and elegantly sipping tea. Through the window, she could see the crouched figure of Sojiro shuffling by. He's been at it all morning. Hunched over since I saw him first thing from my bedroom window. I told him to clean the incinerator too. Any objections? Yeah, why are you making him do all the work? Not really. He always works so hard, even in the cold. Alice quietly sat down. Her teacup had been placed on the table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. They've got themselves a little handmaiden. Butler. He just takes care of them. I don't see why at this point they're just not chill with him at this point. He does a pretty good job of trying to take care of them. At least he's trying. The two sat passing the time in silence, having happened to have the same idea, a nice relaxing cup of tea in the sunroom. With their evening rolls, decided there was no need for idle chatter. Aoko stared out the window intermittently, turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book of rune magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if unspoken agreement in unison, they pressed their teacups to their lips and glanced outside. To the two girls, Sojiro appeared as if he were an animal in a zoo. Neither were interested in lending a hand. This is your house. I just want to reiterate this. This is your house. Why are you the one not taking care of it? Despite his sluggish movements, he was making good progress. It'd go even faster if you two helped. As Aoko's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met Alice's. Alice returned her gaze to her book, though moments later she raised her head again. What is the expressions? I love these. She just likes watching him. And they're shocked, because at this point, it's super speed. Super speed, super speed. How he puts up with this, I do know. I just don't understand. I'd be like, just kill me at this point. Just end it. Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. It was no surprise that Alice admired Sojiro's diligence. Maybe you should get some. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weeds. Without stopping, once the mysterious gardener left the courtyard puffing clouds of white breath. The area he left behind was spotless. Now he needs to have a lawnmower, because there's still foot-tall grass. Has he done this before? Alco muttered after scanning over his work. Well, he came from the mountains, so probably. A stalwart Sojiro worked confidently and ceaselessly, and she was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie, but before long she grew irked. That's the expression. I was about to say, she does not look impressed, she looks annoyed. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. Probably because he's trying to stay on your good side. Alice looked at the clock. If he starts now, it'll be evening before he's done with the incinerator. Actually, he already took care of it. I watched him do it from upstairs. I didn't want him breaking it, so I gave him some pointers. You know, I yelled at him for so long from my window, my room almost froze over. God damn it. You are just taking advantage of this poor boy by now. I'm like 95% certain this boy has Stockholm Syndrome or something. I'm really concerned for his well-being. It was safe to assume Alco had come to the sunroom to escape her cold room. Between barking orders from a window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job. Did Shizuki have anything to say? Yeah. I couldn't really hear him. In other words, his complaints fell on deaf ears. They probably consisted of, why am I the only one doing this? How about you get down here and help with this yard? With nothing else to discuss, the two resumed their readings. The ever so tense silence was broken by Sojiro entering the house after finishing his cleaning, and he looks upset. He stared at the two of them, displeased. I wonder why! Warm enough in here, Awazaki? Warmer than outside, unless you're walking these halls. What made you decide to take care of the gardens anyways? Sojiro's subtle jibe had failed to find its target. He had no chance of winning, so he just hung his shoulders in defeat. Nah, sometimes it's just lay into the girl. It's not about winning, it's about letting her know how you feel. It's so cold out today, snow's probably going to fall tomorrow, so I thought I should tidy up while I could. I didn't think I'd have to work on the incinerator too. He sounded resentful, but his problem was not that with the additional work. If anything, he was glad to do it. What he did not care for was how nobody had even bothered to lend a hand. No shit, I got that far about 5 minutes ago. So what? We all need to use it. Hey, seeing as you're in a generous mood, vacuum the upstairs corridor, would you? And, and that brace for the beech tree out back is on its last legs. Put that toolbox in your room in the attic to good use. And once you're done with that, come to my room. I have a bunch of things I'd like you to throw in the incinerator. She is not getting the hint. She is missing the point. His expression says everything. God damn it. Hence why she made him clean the incinerator. Cool but clever. And what are you going to do while I'm doing all that? No plans, really. Maybe I'll play a little guitar. Alka thought hard about how to spend her afternoon. Yet the thought of cleaning did not cross her mind, as had always been the case. No, it was not out of spite that she did not think to help clean. It was because the word cleaning was not in her vocabulary. Her room would beg to differ, but now that she's got a butler, it probably lost. Sojiro knew exactly why the mansion was in the state it was in. Still, that did not change the fact that the corridor upstairs was very long. And Aoko was not lying about how cold it was inside. It was not much different than outside. You really have no intention of helping me, do you? I mean, do you enjoy cleaning? I do enjoy cleaning, but I don't know. Maybe you could help? Don't you even feel a little bit guilty about using a roommate like this? Or do you just not feel guilt at all? Fuck. Woo! We're firing shots now. As usual, he might have gone too far. His remarks had hit too close to home. Aoko closed her magazine and turned to face him. She has nothing she's allowed to say. Infuriated, she glared her sharp blue eyes piercing into him. And now this is the part where we die. Sojiro knew he had not said anything unjust, but he always backed down first. Sojiro, let me explain it one more time. Okay? He replied automatically, straightening his back in response to Aoko's cold, calm tone. Don't be mistaken. We're not letting you stay here out of kindness. We're putting up with you because we have to. Aoko did not mince her words. Sojiro nodded in defeat. No, but you could at least show him a little kindness. You are kind of forcing him to stay here, extorting him for rent, and now he is cleaning your entire house. You could at least help. So, I'm basically a pet. What was your first clue, the collar or just now? Exactly, and not a very useful one at that. Bitch! Dude's doing more work than you! What, you want him to curl up in your lap and let you pet him like a cat? Okay, there she is. I got really concerned for a second there. I was like, wait, where is that one? Aoko responded, already tired of the conversation. While Sojiro had little room to counter, he still tried. Last time I checked, most pets do not have to buy food or pay rent. Did you say something? Nothing. I'm just a dumb mutt barking up the wrong tree. He raised his hand dismissively, knowing he could not win. To Aoko's ears, his attempt at self-deprecation sounded facetious. You do understand the position you're in, right? Yeah. One where I do all the work. Aoko grinned at her pet's obedience. As long as he knew his place, that was all that mattered to her. She seemed to be extremely satisfied with his response. You don't have a care in the world, do you? Her playful smile darkened, as did Sojiro's expression. Aozaki, I can't breathe. You know, if I keep this up, you'll never be able to complain again. Shall we give it a try? He shook his head, his expression growing more and more grim. Smart choice. I don't see you want to see you suffocate, if I can help it. The grating sound subsided. Sojiro gingerly touched his throat. The collar that had suddenly tightened around his neck returned to its normal size. Do you have any idea how painful it is to suffocate? It's excruciating. I told you, that's what your collar was for. You're always so naive, so I took the opportunity to give it a test run. Now, you know your place. Anyway, chores, you're wasting daylight. Okay. So, that's what the sun was trying to tell me this morning. Sojiro left the sunroom, his shoulders slumped and his tail between his legs. Aoko watched him leave before turning to her magazine, as if nothing had happened. Alice paid no attention. None of that had anything to do with her. And yet somehow it had everything to do with her as well. With Sojiro gone, the room once again fell silent. As the clock ticked on, Alice suddenly stopped flipping through her book. Any reason why you push him so hard? She asked as though talking to herself. Aoko replied without so much as looking up. Nope. We're just going to erase his memories in the end anyway. Why get his hopes up? Obscure as ever, but sincere in her own way. When you put it like that, I suppose you're right. Alice could not believe she had forgotten about the situation. Silently, she looked up from her book and gazed outside once again. The courtyard through the window reminded her of where she lived a decade ago. Nothing could compare to the beauty of those gardens, but if that was the case, why did the scenery make her feel so nostalgic? All Sojiro had done was take care of the gardens with the goodness of his own heart. In only half a day, he had achieved so much. It was Christmas Eve. Snow had started to fall. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas. Pretty artwork. That is fucking gorgeous. Its timing was too good, as though it had waited for that day specifically. The cold, bustling main street seemed bright and vibrant under the layer of frosty white. Reindeer statues illuminated the surroundings. Children danced merrily to Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell. That is the wrong one! Wrong one! People walked along the brick road, smiling broadly. Not Sojiro. Bitch just has to clean the entire house again. Those festivities, however, had not reached the mansion on the hill. Silence enveloped the isolated building. The shadow of the snow-covered woodland grew longer. Beckoning in the darkness, people returned to the warmth of their homes, knowing a bitter night lay ahead. Why are we rewinding time? Something had been amiss in the mansion all day. Perhaps it was the calm before the storm. 2 days had passed since Toko Aozaki had revealed herself. Aoko and Alice spent more and more time locked in their rooms. Mealtimes had grown noticeably quieter. With their roles decided, they were too busy with their own jobs to worry about each other. On this day, the two had been relaxing in the drawing room since morning. The mood was calm. Well, mostly, at least. Sojiro was fretting that tonight would be the same. The snow just couldn't wait till tomorrow, could it? He aimed his words towards the girls on the sofa, despite knowing they would be ignored. Whether the snow fell today, tomorrow, or not at all, it did not affect them. Snow just meant a white Christmas. Aoko remained silent. She wasn't ignoring him per se, she just had other things on her mind. Sojiro knew this, but still cast a lonely glance around the sunroom. The courtyard he had cleaned only a few days ago was hidden by a layer of white. The falling snow would stop every so often, but then resume again, as if teasing Sojiro. By the next morning, the courtyard would be a winter wonderland. Aoko and Alice sipped tea in an effort to fight the cold. In fact, that was all they were doing. You know, Toko's hair was darker than yours, Aozaki. I've never seen such beautiful red hair. Shame it was so short. Sojiro rambled on, not expecting a response. However, her hair was cut short. Aoko's expression went from nonchalant to its usual sharpness. What do you mean short? Are you talking about her hair, right? You were talking about her hair, right? Yeah, even shorter than Alice's. Is that a big deal? No, she just used to have longer hair than mine. So she really cut it all off. Aoko spoke in a grave tone. Showing slight interest, Alice turned to Sojiro. What's so bad about getting a haircut? Does it affect you in any way, Aozaki? Well, yeah, it does. As we have nothing to do until nightfall, suppose I'll explain. Does it have something to do with your magic? You're lucky. If you hadn't said anything, we'd have been oblivious when fighting her. Aoko knowingly glanced at Alice, her expression suggesting she was treating her. She was also likely seeking approval. Alice remained stoic as ever, her expression showing neither approval nor disapproval. How can I put this? Mages can use their hair as a weapon. For the longest time, hair and eyes have been vital to magecraft, especially in my sister's case. The more colorful the eyes, the better. The longer the hair, the higher the quality. Hair has the same qualities as the body, and when grown over many years, it becomes a strong base component. That's why I'm growing mine out. Looking after it is a pain sometimes, but I like styling it. Sojiro glanced furtively at Alice, wondering if the same held true for her. Maybe Alice had cut it because it was a hassle to maintain. It sounded stupid, but then again, this was Alice. Sojiro nodded to himself. So, that's good for you then, right, Aozaki? I mean that Toko's got short hair. If she used all her hair before coming here, then yes. Long hair can be used in tons of ways. I can only use it to temporarily reinforce magecraft, but my sister can use it to complement longer-lasting spells. With all those thoughts, memories in that hair, it's like having a mage clone. You can even use it on a dead dog or cat, reviving them and making them the mage's familiar. Familiars with no previously magical energy like a dog or a cat can acquire magic circuits. All thanks to the hair. The reanimated creatures become something entirely different. They can even speak and take human form. Their behavior changes too, to something resembling a regular mage. Right, Alice? Ask her about the bird. Her last words came with a mocking smile. Alice silently ignored it. So, Toko has familiars like Alice. I think that's a safe bet. She must have been growing her hair for over 20 years. She could have an army of powerful familiars. The fight at the amusement park? Just the thought of Alice Koenji releasing flat snarks sent a shiver down Sojiro's spine. The oil of the moon had been a unique familiar out of this world. Hey, don't worry about it. She couldn't create a familiar that could destroy Misaki or anything. Still, a familiar created with hair that long would be incredibly powerful. Mages that use their hair, though, they need to reset one of the three pillars from the beginning. They have to grow their hair again. Making familiars is easy, but not leading them. As Aoko spoke, her mood visibly improved, as though she made a breakthrough. Dogs and cats. Tilting his head to the side. He could not imagine a world where dogs and cats were so powerful. Alright, let's... It's strange. Toko is a puppet master. I wonder why she would lower herself to make familiars. She probably has nobody to help her, and she wouldn't ask for assistance with a personal matter concerning the family. Actually, maybe the puppet at the amusement wasn't made for her from her hair. Now that you mention it, you did say that it seemed highly customized. Its cursed base, perpetual motion, coiled arms, fin shot, the depths of its obsession. It's unlikely Toko created the puppet from scratch. Meaning? Toko is not the type to put herself into her creations. She might consider doing it for a perfect replica, but the ones we destroyed weren't even fake copies of her. How could that puppet have the same power as Toko? No way, not even close. Then it would not have been... Then it would not have been made using her hair. Meaning, we have to keep our eyes open for a familiar fused with her magical energy. So, in your expert opinion, you think that her familiar could be stronger than my sister herself. If not, then what's the point of creating one? She needs help. It's two of us versus one of her. So, she's going to attack with a familiar at the same time. That makes sense. It would at least be a fair fight. Well, fairer when it comes to familiars. I think you have the upper hand. Alice had never been defeated by a familiar. She sighed at Aoko's overconfidence. Aoko, even if she utilizes her 20-year stockpile, she can only use the small animals as vessels. If Toko was a prepared familiar as her trump card... Don't you say it. No sister of mine would stoop that low. Aoko and Alice stared at each other. The conversation had returned to the drawing room, but the subject matter was not for the faint of heart. I suppose. Still, nothing hunts down a human better than a human. Toko may not have raised the dead, but she probably has something just as powerful up her sleeve. Yeah, okay. I admit, geniuses can get stuck in their own world sometimes. Whatever corpse she throws at me, I'll be ready. The fuck? I beg your finest pardon? What? Aoko nodded reluctantly at Alice's directness. Needless to say, Sojiro was completely lost. I don't quite follow. She's using a corpse as a familiar in order to fight her sister. And now we are very likely going to find that one of our the characters we know, is a fucking zombie. When did necromancy become an option? Why are you both convinced that the familiar is dead? Because living partners aren't familiars, they're co-conspirators. Familiars can't live with a mage to sustain them. Still, they're the perfect foil, strong-willed and smart enough to compensate for their mage's shortcomings. Everything you'd want from a great familiar. Let's be real, who wouldn't want to bring that kind of partner back to life? Completely obedient and capable of compensating for their mage's weakness. Sojiro felt that a familiar was a little different than himself. Why do I feel like it's Sojiro? Now then, my sister has always been a rune user, so we can somewhat predict her tactics. Her trump card, which we need to be worried about, is probably a familiar, and it's likely used up all of her automata. She likely Likely she used up all of her automata already. Alice spoke directly to Alice, looking for confirmation. Alice nodded in agreement. So, we stick to the plan. Let's call it a night. I'm gonna make her pay for all that crap she's putting us through for the last month. Aoko clenched her teeth and balled her fists. It all seemed like nothing more than a sibling rivalry. In fact, that's probably all it was. Looking at Aoko, Sojiro let out a sigh of relief. With what happened to Toko, now they reacted to her visit, the atmosphere had been deathly tense. For now, though, Aoko seemed much calmer. He took comfort in the thought that perhaps the sisters would just bury the hatchet. Even if Aoko and Toko were not sisters, he would not want to see what would happen if they fought. The hands on the clock turned gently. Approaching Judgment Night, a merciless silence would soon come to mock Sojiro's complacency. As night appeared, two things vanished. The first was the whimsical snowfall. Second was the lights of the mansion on top of the hill. Aoko and Alice were nowhere to be seen inside. Only Sojiro remained. It was the night of Christmas Eve. Though Aoko and Alice had yet to find Toko, they knew everything would be concluded over the course of the day and the next. Christmas comes but once a year. It was a singular time for endings and new beginnings. In Japan, the modern holiday dated back only about 100 years. It celebrated Christ's birth only in name. With all of that, its latter-day trappings, it was neither a pure homage nor corruption of the festival that had inspired it. Regardless, there was a significant increase in the land's mana during festivals. Such charged distortions were a boon to a mage's craft, be it creative or destructive. Toko Aozaki sought to destroy the local sigils, which gathered and properly cycled the magical energy of the land and its people. Sojiro was able to gather that much from Aoko and Alice's conversation. Toko had already claimed 3 sigils. Only 2 remained. Any further loss would signal Aoko and Alice's defeat. In order to protect the remaining ones, they had to split up. Aoko lacked power, so she would need to borrow a ploy from Alice and head to the Tokawa Sigil, which boasted the greatest local energy supply. Alice would go fully equipped to the sigil of Yashidogi. Free from the constraints of civilized society, magecraft is most powerful at midnight. A young witch and the apprentice mage wished each other luck before leaving the mansion. It was almost 10 at night. After the girls set out, the first 2 hours passed quickly. When Aoko was ready to head off, Sojiro walked with her to the foyer. Neither had spoken a word to each other. She had departed without showing any signs of fear. It was difficult to tell whether she did not want to get him involved or whether she did not see him as a worthy ally in combat. The thought stuck with him. He let out a long sigh, not out of dejection or frustration. It was a mechanical, emotionless breath. He sat on the near-frozen floor, staring vacantly up at the skylight. Moonlight peeked through the clouds. He imagined the moonlight bouncing off the town's powdery blanket in an illuminating night. But he would not find himself downtown. Watching from the sidelines was his role to begin with. His roommates and he lived world apart. He could not keep up with them, and if he did not show the same kind of will, he would remain on the sidelines. However, I get it. I'm not needed anymore. Sojiro looked up at the moon. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a trickle of sadness. Dude. Fuck. I don't trust this kid, but at the same time I feel so bad for him. Veiled in white and cloaked in darkness, the park seemed like a forgotten memory. Not a soul was in sight. The night felt far more enigmatic than usual, yet the air was clean enough to drink. Though only a sliver of moonlight peered through the clouds, it lit up the entire world. In those moments, a young girl's footsteps echoed, trampling the still white silence under the midnight sun. The pale moon illuminated the inky blue sky. Only a few streetlights and an incongruous phone booth betrayed signs of civilization. A girl appeared dressed in black. Against the snowy landscape, the figure of Alice Kuonji was unmistakable. Pure, black, deeper than even the night, were her overcoat and gloves and hat, even her hair and eyes. Nothing stirred for a time, not Alice, nor the white scenery. The world was still painting on a snowy field. Only time moved gradually, darkening the lights in the park and eventually the nearby homes as well. Yashirogi was a more modern and developed town than Misaki. Though the park was located in the center of town, it had become a blind spot. It had been overlooked by developers, carried no commercial value. A few houses encircled the park, the streetlights turned off at midnight. It was a white night. People, even machines, were fast asleep. It looks like I got here early, Alice whispered, watching the streetlights slowly fade. She thought she heard a dog howling in the distance. Perhaps it was howling at the moon. The howl reached deeper into the night than expected. A wolf, maybe? The phone rang. It was perhaps the first time it had hung since Sojiro moved into the mansion. Hesitantly, he picked up the receiver and brought it to his ear. He heard nothing. He felt he had to say something, but could not think what. Maybe something like, "Hello, Kuonji residence," or maybe, "You've reached the Aozaki residence." While he was deep in thought, a voice as light as air came through the receiver. Shizuki. Sojiro could barely hear the voice, but it was definitely Alice's. Yes? Is that you, Alice? No response. The silence was as profound as the night. But for the sound of static from the receiver, after a long pause, Alice finally spoke. Is Aoko there? No, she hasn't come back yet. I see. With a click, the call ended. Sojiro wondered if she had something to say, but could not respond in time. Slowly they advanced, carving through the fresh snow. There were so many. Where had they all come from? Dozens of feral dogs snarled at Alice as their eyes trained on her. Snow clung to the beast's mangy fur. Their clenched fangs, bloodshot eyes hid barely rained hunger that might burst forth like lightning at any moment. They yearned to taste the warm flesh and satiate their empty bellies. To them, the girl in black stood like a lighthouse on a stormy sea. She watched them, disinterested. Appears as though the Yashirogi sigil was the key target tonight, not Tokawa, where Aoko had gone. Alice had always been unflappable, and the child's play before her was hardly anything to change that. Her main enemy was not the dogs surrounding her, but the lone mage behind them, Toko Aozaki. What hideous taste. Is this what you've fallen to after these last several years? Not that I'm complaining. If this is who you really are, Aozaki and I have nothing to worry about. Toko laughed at the acerbic taunt. My, such immovable spirit. Rest assured, Alice, I'm not doing this for fun. Crunching through the fallen snow, Toko slowly came into view. She wore a moss-green coat that contrasted sharply with Alice's garbs. A silk scarf warmed her neck. She stood tall, her hair short, striking a more valiant posture than any young man. After all, the two standing there needed to be less like the shining moon, and more like the darkness surrounding it. The barking abated. Like servants in a royal court, they averted their eyes under their ruler, lest their eyes and hearts be plucked out. It's been a long time. It's been a long time, Alice. It has. You look well, Toko. They stood about 12 feet apart. No love had been lost between them. Just two enemies, one who would be victorious and one who was to fall. Dude, this score is great. So, how do we do this, Alice? We have so much to catch up on. How have you been? There's so much I've been dying to tell you. You can spare 5 minutes to chat, can't you? I'm afraid not. If I gave you the slightest quarter, you will steal it all. The following events unfolded quickly. Boldly and without second's thought, Alice pulled out the cat's bell from her seam of her mantle and dropped it. Diddle diddle, cat and the fiddle. The cat is a fiddle! Beginning of Alice Gonji's Magecraft, the start of a night of fairy tales. Alco favored a quick draw approach. There's something from a western. However, Alice preferred sleight of hand. She used her target's blind spots against them, ending the game before they knew it had begun. The bell fell like a coin into a fountain. And then it was about to strike the ground. It shattered, disappearing without a trace. Runes. Correct. I spent all day carving characters into the bark. The brick path meant it was easy work. If it's a little time-consuming, look at the woods around here. Roughly a 1,200 square foot blank canvas. Impressive, isn't it? Right now, you and I are on top of a 300,000 characters worth of runes. Swallowing hard, Alice took a step back. Toko had carved runes all over the ground. Even in the area Diddle reacted to alone, there was a depressing amount of them. Had she truly carved them into the whole park? Alice did not react with surprise. She simply narrowed her eyes. She could see how it would have taken the whole day. It was no wonder Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night, was destroyed by the skin of the sun. Still, something bothered Alice. How in the world did you hide them all? There were just so many. The snow. I know. I'm so ecstatic. I know the movie's coming out. We are going to be doing a reaction for this, by the way. When it's on Crunchyroll or something, whatever I can find it on, we are doing a reaction to this. I am so happy. It makes me way too excited. I screamed like a little girl and immediately sent it to one of my mods who told me to play this game. So make sure to subscribe if you want to watch the reaction. I don't know when it will come out because we don't even have a release date yet, except for this year. Makes me way too happy. Yeah, it most likely, unless it comes out on Crunchyroll as well at the same time, or High Dive. Those are my two best options of thought. The only other option is Netflix, and that may convince me to get Netflix for like a few days, but then cancel it. I'm very ecstatic because it's going to be in 2 parts. It's only the first half, which means like I think up to the park, the amusement park. So I'm not looking forward to the absolute horror that is the dolls seen in animation. Those things terrify me as pictures, but we're gonna watch it. And one of my mods is gonna join in. Hopefully, I can convince her. What kind of magecraft could do that? Oh. These are special. These runes shift location. They're doing it even now. They look like simple scratches, but they can't return to their original form when they touch the strong magical energy. You could call them memory runes. The fuck? What is the limits to this magic? This is endless. This is a very soft magic system. Yes? Young lady, sit on your throne and relax. You don't need to be in my lap right now. Look at what you do to my seat. You claw it. You have your own throne. No matter how deep the night, these suns won't set. I feel like that's the wrong word, but at the same time I feel like that's the right word. And the snow hit them beautifully. She spoke modestly, but Alice could not imagine the amount of persistence, technique, and skill it must have taken. I can't even begin to imagine. That would take hours. I'd get done with it. And it only took a day. Even 10 mages would have trouble producing so many sophisticated runes in that time. She had to have help. Moreover, these runes were made using unknown techniques the association had not approved. It pains me to admit it, Toko, but that's a lot of power to use on one poor little girl. Oh, please. I've never thought that about you. Though, there were times when I admired that body of yours. To have one like that? That is creepy. Red flag. Someone call the police. Stranger danger. Okay, we're doing that. It happened in I'm sorry, what? Alice cut off Toko's snide remark with a deadly stare. The left eye in the darkly clad girl changed in color to an ominous ruby. The speed of the incantation was phenomenal. She didn't utter a word! Alice's mystic eye was enthralling, snared Toko. She had been the one to quite literally be taken captive by the girl's stare. Well, she said eyes can do a lot. Toko tried to raise her arm, but could not even move a finger. Alice's mystic eyes commanded absolute control with no room for resistance. Only a person's internal organs were allowed freedom to move. That makes me very uncomfortable. I just felt a shiver go down my spine, thank you very much. Since their organs still functional, it was more precise to say that her eyes forbid the target from acting. Alice had played her hand with exquisite timing. It wasn't the speed of her eyes that had given her an edge. It was the deftness in which she wove her spells to exploit the briefest vulnerability is what made Alice a different caliber than other mages like Owl. This witch who lived hidden in the modern era was more seasoned in magical battles than Toko Aozaki. Such a shame. Without diddle diddle, your eyes can't be made acrostic. Why does this game have so many words I just don't understand? You were close. With your moon boy kickshaw, I might have been begging for mercy. The formation holding Toko began to distort. In the blink of an eye, the mage had bested Alice's mystic eyes. Alice's black outfit fluttered in the wind. She turned so she was not facing Toko head-on. The mage had recovered through her own mystic eyes. At the root of Toko's mystic eyes was a spell of mesmerize. The most effective when facing their prey. Such eyes could mind-jack a target's awareness. It was difficult to resist head-on. However, its effect was greatly diminished if the target was not facing the eyes directly, even if it was within range. Moreover, the girl was the last witch of her lineage who commanded a great number of fairy tales. Against mystic eyes that projected their effects, simply turning one's body was enough to repel half of the magical energy. Like Alice's eyes, Toko could not disable actions. Alice had escaped by the skin of her teeth. The damage she suffered from was the weight of a twig to a forest. She had just let the energy pass through. In an instant, a startling chill ran through Alice's body. This was a problem. A touch of death ran up her spine. She glared at the mage before her, blue rubber balls that flowed from beneath her overcoat. The stare-off grew more intense. Alice glared harder, resisting Toko's mystic eyes with her own. Losing was not an option. Get the fuck out! This is not a fight you can win! In terms of raw magical energy, Alice Konji's mystic eyes were more powerful and advanced than Toko's. Surely nobody could beat her. And yet, her unfiltered stock of magical energy, stifled by old-fashioned values, was no match for Toko's madness. Deeper within her eyes, somehow the eyes revealed a sealed power. Inside the crystalline lens was the mage's left iris was a bottomless pit, a Klein cube. Alice winced in pain. The bindings grew in number. So many mystic eyes, thousands perhaps, and all fixed on Alice. Pressure, so much pressure. Endless, and Alice knew it. She saw, incredulous, she saw eyes growing within eyes. Toko had placed opposing mirrors inside her eyes, resulting in an infinite glare. The fuck? It was the act of a mad woman creating mystic eyes within mystic eyes. She could even control the result in chaos caused by all the copies. Her insanity knew no bounds. This girl is... I'm sorry, hold up, what? No mage in their right mind would mass-produce so many mystics, the last escape of humankind, so indiscriminately. Oh dear. Am I making you uncomfortable? Tell me, am I doing a good job of imitating a mindster? Aren't you impressed? Instead of bending reality using a rare mystic like you would, I mass-produce a mystic to bend reality to my will. On the surface, they're regular mystic eyes. Only their volume is infinite. No matter how much magical energy an opponent uses to resist them, they will simply multiply the energy needed to bind them. She wielded power without limit to disable an opponent. Once one was caught in them, one was chained to the concept of infinity. Projection-type eyes had a fatal flaw. Their firepower and formula were insignificantly compared to the great artillery of incanted spells. But Toko had torn down the conventional wisdom with brute strength. If the gun was a pea shooter, she simply needed to bring more guns. A 9mm bullet could never destroy a fortress unless one threw a fortress mass of bullets at it. The principle was brutalishly simple, but in the world of magecraft, where concepts decided supremacy, Toko's iterative mystic eyes were the perfect weapon. The target would be bound until she closed her eyes. In theory, at least, the effects were infinite. No amount of magical energy could ever overcome it. So it was utterly futile to resist using magical energy. So kick some snow in her fucking face! Of course, one way to counter it would be to stay out of Toko's line of sight to begin with. The standard tactic against mystic eyes was to defeat the user before they were aware of you. There was, however, another way. It was simpler than one might think. Is it kick some snow into her face? How about some dirt? Quick, Alice, use sand attack! I'm afraid this is checkmate. Any last words? Alice could no longer see her enemy. Toko's infinite eyes had bound her. All she could make out was a sliver of moonlight. A blue streak tracing its way forward. Fine. I wish I could say I had no regrets like you. She drew a rune in the air, unleashing a shockwave to tear flesh asunder. The guests became blades of air that shredded Alice's overcoat and mints. Blue feathers flittered all around. Toko felt something behind her and turned. 5 cat-shaped bells were thrown at her feet. And just as quickly as they shattered to pieces, standing before her was a completely unharmed Alice Kuonji. That rune was but a light breeze. Have you really lost your touch, Toko? You used a double. I've never heard of a boy that can take the form of a mage. Well, you have now. He's useless every other day of the year, but comes in handy when someone's trying to kill you. As if responding to Alice's words, a bird began chirping frantically, an anonymous sacrifice. Who killed Cock Robin? Echoed in the night, sung out of tune. Ah, that old rhyme. But you can only kill it once. Not that it would matter, as if it was more than that. The bird squawked in a very unbird-like death throw. And behind Alice, the blue robin fell from a tree, a victim of Toko's mystic eyes. So useless. How about you and I start over? Or rather, let's end this now. You're out of options in this park. I don't think so. Granted, I may not be able to break free of your eyes. But build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. The song came from the depths of the earth, stirring a mighty quake to mark the birth of something gargantuan. Toko needed to throw Alice into an infinite hell before whatever that was would be completed. But she was far too late. The ground burst alive, the finger, then none other, then another, and another, all rising up like towers. Earth, snow, and bricks knitted together, manifesting a giant stone golem. What the hell is this? What's this freak doing here? Toko was so angry and confused she could barely gather her thoughts. The bridge giant, the monster from the Minster fairy tales, rose from the ground, ruining Toko's plans. Break everything! The giant was extremely powerful, but could only be summoned under one condition. It must be in proximity of to a natural river. That was the monster's one and only condition. But this park was nowhere near one. On top of that, it was rising up directly between Toko and Alice, mid-battle. Oh, there's a river, all right. Well, I suppose river is a bit of an exaggeration, and it'll be gone soon. Toko lowered her gaze. She was standing in a puddle of water. scarred red mage was dumbfounded. That was what Alice had used Diddle Diddle before. While the bells could be replenished, they were valuable to Alice, and she had spent 5 throwing them into the intentional line of the sun runes to destroy. From there, a stream of melting snow. Oh, it's big! Smash her to pieces! She's so proud of herself. She's like, this is the best I can do. The arms of Thane's troll rose up. From the stone paving, the monster's torso alone surpassed 80 feet. Its form was made entirely of snow. Previously, she had created one using the tree of a forest. However, Toko knew instantly the monster before her was at least twice as powerful. Halt! She unleashed her stacked mystic eyes. They were meaningless at this stage. They had no effect on the giant. As said, mystic eyes can be countered 2 ways. First was to hide oneself from the view of the mage. That was the standard response. The other way, however, was devilishly simple, yet 100% effective. In fact, it's less of a way and more of a fact. Mystic eyes curse a target by focusing on them. However, what if the target was too large to focus on entirely? Dude, I need to see this thing's just entire body. The answer was, one could barely stop a single arm. The giant, unfazed, raised its right arm and swung it down onto the ground, destroying thousands of runes. The demolished stones were then absorbed into its arms, adding to its mass. As the mage had said before, no matter how deep the night, these little suns won't set. While the suns might not set, they could be crushed under the bulk of a giant's hand. Her dogs are nothing to this giant. Victor of the battle was decided. Toko Awazaki closed her eyes and prepared to escape. Stray dogs began to whine, fearful of the hulking figure before them. You win this one, Alice. Looks like I'm no match for a mindster after all. Let's pick up another time, shall we? Do you really think you can escape, Toko? Oh, please, Alice. Give me some credit. I should mention I don't think I'm the one who needs to escape. There was no hint of bravado in Toko's tone. Even in the face of a titan she had no means of harming, her confidence was unshakable. The reason being, the opening act's over. Come out, Mahoyo. This was no longer a battle of skill. A fight for survival had begun. Snap went through Toko's fingers. In response, a beautiful high-pitched melody floated up toward the moon. It echoed all around them. The spiral howl dredged up ancient primal memories. Its source emerged from the shadows and landed next to the mage. Whoa! That is gorgeous. Alice's lip trembled faintly, not from fear, but with admiration once she recognized the creature before her. It was a majestic golden beast, beyond the domain of both magical and phantasmal, simply divine. It was a life that should have passed from the world with the ages of gods, a mystic derived from human wisdom, received by thousands of generations of hidden tradition, a recreation of a miracle that once freely walked the earth, the natural enemy of magecraft, able to crush it with ease. Quiet resignation settled over Alice's face. The golden beast charged. This time she didn't even have a chance to admit defeat. Alice? What the fuck did that dog do? She could hear the beast's breathing in her ear. It seemed she had been unconscious for a short time. Alice opened her eyes and took a deep breath. Each cough sent pain shooting through her body. Blood rose from the pits of her stomach, and she spat it onto the cold ground. When her vision returned, she was able to make out the distant sky, falling snow, and the golden wolf. The wolf panted, stared at Alice's saliva dripping from its mouth onto her cheek. Razor-sharp fangs lined its jaws. The fur was glossier than any animal she had ever seen. Brutal knife-like claws protrude from its massive blood-stained paws, and yet it did not smell like a beast. Surely the presence of a noble creature, a human, would feel the lesser animal. The battle between Alice and the wolf was over before it had begun. After destroying the troll, it baptized Alice with its wicked claws, giving her no chance to escape. Its sideswipe had torn into her abdomen like a sword, carving through her clothes and flesh all the way to her heart. Even so, not once did Alice make a sound. No, you're not killing Alice. Fuck no. Wolf had her pinned and stared at her face. Her limbs felt ready to break at any moment. That was the situation she found herself in. Now fully conscious, Alice stared at her enemy through pained eyes. She felt no fear, only cold reality sinking in. No! Fuck no! Sensing Alice's demeanor, the wolf suddenly paused, its paw still raised. They looked into each other's eyes. It's bleeding. Doesn't it hurt? The wolf's voice came as a surprise, but there's no doubt it had spoken. Or are you just fine with pain? The wolf's voice sounded innocent, almost childlike. In complete contrast to what had happened up to that point, the wolf smiled. Either way, you've got guts, lady. The wolf opened its mouth wide, clamped its jaw around Alice's neck. Fuck. No! No! Bayo? Toko's tone was sharper than the wolf's fangs. The wolf froze. Miss Toko? He let go and slowly turned his head towards the voice. Didn't I tell you not to finish her off? Are you trying to make extra work for me, you mutt? But that's the best part. Well, this was a washout, and the troll went down like everything else. Talk about a disappointment. The wolf backed away from Alice, as if no longer interested in his prey. The golden beast, she was a little more than an old chew toy. Conscious again? Even with all that blood loss and broken bones, you're tough. Do I have the Meister training to thank? Barely clinging to life, Alice stared at Toko, but not a stare of hatred and defeat, but one of disbelief. Alice simply wondered why Toko had brought such a beast. Pardon me. I should have introduced you. This is the last known werewolf on Earth. Werewolf?! A pureblood born to an indigenous tribe in the northern European tundra. As you can see, he's a golden mystic, and it doesn't do him justice to say he merely resembles his ancestors. He didn't have a name, so I called him Beowulf. Pretty apt, right? Beowulf. Alice's face was perplexed, even though she hadn't wavered when she was disemboweled. Beowulf, the name of the heroic giant slayer from Danish legend. It came from Old English, a combination of honeybee and wild beast. A bear, in other words. Kind of an incongruous name. What do you mean? It's cute. Perhaps because of the name or because of the golden beast itself. Fighting the pain, Alice struggled to read Toko. In this respect, she was worse than Aoko. Incidentally, Beowulf called these other mutts in. Naturally, I didn't think they'd have any effect on a Minster's daughter. For now, at least. Toko's mouth twisted into a grin, not the warm one Sojiro saw, but the merciless smile a victor displays to a loser. The disdain in Alice's eyes turned to anger. The golden mystic. How could Toko have brought such a creature to the human world? Come now, it's just supply and demand. Depopulation is not just a human problem. Their old ways were unsustainable, and so I bought him for a high price. Well, more like I had to pay for the right to bring him out of his cave. As you might have guessed, I used my hair for the contract with Bayo. I like to think of it as creating an alliance with a beast instead of creating a familiar. While she was talking, Toko noticed something strange. An unusual sound. A preternatural sound that tore at the mind. A sound that should not have existed. And it was coming from the girl's open abdomen. Regenerating already? No. Wait. What's the smell? Smells like something amazing is going to happen. Curious, Beowulf moved closer, like a puppy examining a new toy. Don't look at it. Stay over there, Beo. Pull yourself together. Toko shooed the mutt away with her hand. Beowulf lowered his head meekly and withdrew. I must have trained you wrong. Going for a girl's belly like that? Shame on you. So, but how come you're allowed to look? Hey, idiot! I'm a girl, so it's fine. If Aoko had been there, she would have blasted them away for their impudence, just as she did against Flat Snark. You know, I feel sorry for you. How could your Minster mother call herself a parent when she's neglected you so much? With her gloved hand, Toko ran her fingers along the wound on Alice's abdomen. A flash of pain ran through Alice's body. Alice had held in her screams, but she finally let out a long breath. She turned her face away in pain or shame. The skin's here regenerating already. So many crests on the bone, veins, even the internal organs. Having magic circles like that from birth is a double-edged sword. They cut incantation time, which is a great boon for the mage, but the more there are, the more pain they bring. Awazakis have crests in one arm. We've got nothing on you, do we? Magic circuits crests Toko referred to were the inheritance of the Awazaki family passed down by their ancestor. They can only be inherited. Aoko had received the ones that were meant for Toko. However, ours had its own set of drawbacks. The pain Awazaki feels in her right arm is a reminder of her human body reacting to being changed into a mystic. Her mundane body rejects her right arm, and that pain is the cost of its deletion. It causes both physical and mental phantom pain, like some original sin that can never be wiped away. Still, when you've come this far, pain becomes trivial. It makes it difficult to know when you're really alive. Do you still believe you're human? Honestly, I sympathize. We've both had a hard time with such extraordinary teachers, haven't we, Alice? Toko took Alice's body in her arms. The wounds from Beowulf had mostly healed. Even so, her breathing was shallow, likely due to the pain. Toko gently held the girl's face in her hand. I'm indebted to your Minster mother. My true opponent has only ever been Aoko. I mean, I'm all for some Yuri, but... Hello? That is a teenage girl? Alice's lungs pined for oxygen. Toko pressed her lips to hers. The young girl wriggled, trying to escape, but Toko held her firmly. Beneath the blue moon, the two remained frozen, in the sound of swallowing. Something solid slid down Alice's throat. With that, she went limp and her arm fell. After setting Alice down on her sides, Toko stood up. I've given you a dose of my own blend of Rowan, not easily counteracted. If you use magical energy, it'll explode, so do be careful. Oh, and don't read too much into it. Passing things with your mouth is just something I like to do. I'm sorry, hello? Excuse me? What? Nope. This got creepy. We got creepy again. This girl makes me just stranger danger. So, fuck. Alice can't use magic now. As she desperately clung to consciousness, Alice looked up at Toko from the ground. The disgrace from the kiss was greater than the pain she felt in her body. Toko began walking away, her golden wolf in tow. Neither looked back to see Alice's hateful glare. What? This girl basically just assaulted Alice. I'm pretty sure sexually. This girl just committed SA. Remember those mutts Bayo called? There's a ton of them around the park, and unfortunately, they're still hungry. Bayo's an alpha male. Seeing that Bayo did to you must have really fired them up. In a roundabout way, Toko had read Alice her last rites. In nature, it was common for the weak that could no longer move to offer their bodies up to feed the strong. Well, Alice, I think that's everything. It's a long walk, but hopefully you can make it safely. You better not kill her! Girl's the best character in this game. With a twisted grin, the mage headed into the darkness. As her footsteps faded, the sounds of growls grew loud. Alice could still barely focus her eyes. The hounds looked like monsters out of a picture book. Alice took a deep breath, her consciousness slipping away. The sky was blue. Trees were tall. The park was a graveyard. In the corner of her eyes, though, Alice could just make out a solitary phone booth. The phone rang. It was the second time Sojiro had heard his voice echo through the cold foyer. Only a few minutes had passed since Alice called. He wondered what she could want this time. The call persisted, determined not to leave him to his thoughts. Hi. Hello. Gonji residence. Oh. Is that Sojiro I hear? A cheery voice. Sojiro had been expecting Alice. It was Toko Aozaki. Somehow Sojiro was not surprised. Yes, it's me. How are you, Toko? He checked the time. He thought it was about midnight by now. No matter what the situation, Sojiro always kept his cool. He could hear Toko trying to suppress a laugh. After taking a while to compose himself, she started talking again. My apologies. It seems you have a penchant for catching people off guard. Anyways, to answer your questions, I've been very busy today trying to finish off everything. Huh, that's a coincidence. Aozaki was just talking about you. I thought she might. At times like this, you can tell we're sisters. In fact, that's the only thing we ever did have in common. Timing. Oh, I bet you tried to get her to stop as well. As an Aozaki, I know she didn't take that too kindly. I wouldn't. Sojiro realized she was probably right. Aozaki's words made more sense now. Cutting to the chase, I don't have time to gossip. Is Aoko there? It almost sounded like she was worried about her sister's whereabouts. But the cool-headed Sojiro had not forgotten Toko was their enemy. Keeping Aoko and Alice in mind, he decided to be evasive. Who can say? I'm not sure what answer you expect, Miss Toko. The question shifted the tone of the conversation drastically. Sojiro could hear Toko muttering to herself in annoyance. Sojiro was proving more quick-witted than she had anticipated. A change of tack was required. I suppose not giving me an answer is probably the best course of action. On first impressions, I thought I'd be wise not to ignore you, but now I don't think I want to get you involved. So for your sake, stay out of this, okay, Sojiro? Her warning came from the heart. Sojiro responded flatly, once again not giving any sign either way. It seemed she wanted him to stay out of this too. Even Sojiro could tell the girls were being kind in their own way. But who asked for their kindness? I'll say goodbye then. I'm much busier than you think. Although, there is one tiny thing. I know this is hardly fair, but I'd never forgive myself if I didn't tell you. So I'll have to put half of the responsibility on your shoulders. Toko giggled. I laughed to show she had him in the palm of her hand from the beginning. I met Miss Kuonji a short while ago. She called you earlier, didn't she? Her tone had not changed. She sounded as cordial as before. Even so, as Sojiro heard Alice's name, a chill ran up his spine. Well, right now she's in a bad shape. She can barely walk, in fact. And if she uses any crest, they'll tear her to pieces. Oh, and those broken bones. Ouch! At any rate, she could lose consciousness at any time. Not great news with all those scary stray dogs around her. If you ask me, she's about 10 minutes before she's nothing but a pile of bones. She spoke as if she was telling a joke. If it was a joke, it was in bad taste. But this tea is not. However, Sojiro knew this was anything but. She was telling the truth. He had not heard of dogs attacking anyone in town, but the noise he heard while on the phone with Alice suddenly made sense. Dogs, a pack of them, no doubt about it. They were surrounding their prey. Why had he not cottoned on sooner? You mean caught on sooner? Cottoned is not the word you are looking for. Squeezing the receiver in his hand, Sojiro cursed himself. Alice had been calling for help. Even when backed into a corner, she had not wanted to involve Sojiro. Still, she needed help. The way she said his name so lightly. Where is she? He spoke abruptly. Even though he knew Toko was the enemy, he was confident she would answer him. That was the reason she called. I can tell you, but just know that the moment I do, you become my enemy. Do we have a deal? Sojiro realized what was happening. He was being tested. By ignoring Alice, he would be confirming that he did not want to get involved. But if he decided to save her, tell me where she is. Sojiro ignored Toko's question. Of course, he was not prepared to become her enemy, but he was even less prepared to let Alice die. He had lost his ability to think sensibly, not that he was particularly good about that to begin with. Still, he would not waste any time in deliberation. He would simply go with his instincts. It was one of the few times he had felt pride since coming down from the mountains. Okay, I'm a little disappointed. I didn't want to have to kill you. Then again, I thought it might end up this way. She's at Yashirogi Nature Park. Check the map under the phone. I bookmarked the page last time I was there. I'll say it again. You'll be lucky if you have 10 minutes. It'll be a miracle if she lasts a minute longer. As he listened, Sojiro's expression turned into one of irritation. Misaki and Yashirogi were one station apart. How long would it take him to get from the station to the mansion? To the station from the mansion? Usually under 12 minutes. By the time he got off the train at Yashirogi, nearly 30 minutes would have passed. It looks close on the map, but transport links around here are terrible. You might be able to catch the last train, but you should cut your losses. Either way, you're my enemy now. Just don't regret your choice. The line went dead. Sojiro, not Toko, had hung up the phone. He memorized the map and then made for the door. With no time to grab his coat, he ran out into the snowy winter night with the clothes he had on. All that remained in the hall was the discarded map. It showed Misaki City. It was about 10 miles from the mansion to the nature park. 5 if you went in a straight line, but the streets were not that forgiving. 4 inches on the map, but so much farther in reality. For the first time, Sojiro cursed the town. Holy fuck. Please save her. I like her. I liked her. Alice's injuries were not limited to her abdomen. The wolf had punched a hole straight to her back, crushing her lower vertebrae and leaving both of her legs paralyzed. Though her magic crests were repairing the damage, it would likely take another hour before recovery. At the very least, her heart and slender arms still worked. Although after crawling along the ground to the phone booth, those too were failing her. As the crests healed her wound, a searing heat ran through her body that threatened to overwhelm her. It was as if her body was no longer her own, like she was transforming into another creature. The poison throbbing through her open wounds hurt emotionally more than physically. She was used to pain, but she could not accept the disquieting feeling. Not that she had any intention to. The moment she did, it would be her last. Alice wrestled with the discomfort from her abdomen and her magic crests, and with her consciousness holding on by a thread, she took the phone in her hand. It was unlike Aoko would be there to pick up. Even so, with the stray dogs gathering around the booth, she had to try. It was Sojiro who picked up. Alice knew she was better off just hanging up, but his name slipped out of her mouth. After pausing and fighting with herself for some time, an image of the innocent boy came to mind and she hung up. Her instincts had won out. She could not let him get involved. Bitch is already involved. And not just because he was an innocent bystander, it was more than that. You guys fucking care about him. To Alice, Sojiro appeared that day because he was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Only the lightest of breaths passed her lips. Above her, the moon began to blur. Snow was falling again, so close, yet so far. The dogs began hurling themselves at the phone booth to the chorus of hungry snarls. Thunk! 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 She took one last deep breath and closed her eyes. Glass, an unusual material for a coffin. But the girl knew it was some corner of her mind that she had made the right choice, not to ask the boy for help. Some time passed. A peculiar sight came into view. A field of wildflowers. The clear sky was too blue. The flowers so numerous they made the field look barren. The sight was so dazzling beautiful, she wished she could look away. This was probably all thanks to Father Winter. The cold wind carried a scent of a paradise far removed, untainted by man or beast. It was a glimpse of the fields beyond winter. One could be forgiven for thinking they were the afterlife. Come to think of it, she remembered how funerals were sad, yet always beautiful. She cried. She made an incongruous whine, a sound of life. Her breathing was strained and erratic. Hollow and useless was the heart that she once used to fend off pain. It was as though she was in the space between disconnected body and mind. A crying woman and a silent child. High was the sky, deep was the forest. Unmoving were the people. No footsteps or voices of salvation came. Who was that looking innocently at the sky and the stillness? When she came to, Alice was going up a familiar hill. The cold night air had all but frozen her hands or feet. She shook as you would expect from someone whose abdomen had been torn apart. Tsuki. She could barely comprehend that she was being carried slowly up. Sojiro had Alice on his back and was silently ascending the slope. His calm eyes seemed to be suffering from the bitter cold. He did not seem to be dressed for the time of year. Not even a coat. His exposed neck and hands were ice cold. What are you doing here? Alice asked, still slumped over his frame. She tried to move, but to no avail. Last thing she wanted was to rest her entire weight on someone else. Toko called me. She said you were in trouble. You're more stubborn than Alasaki, you know. Why didn't you ask me for help? Not that I could be much help, but still. Sojiro spoke with a scolding tone, his eyes kept firmly ahead. His words were directed at himself rather than the girl on his back. This doesn't concern you. Maybe you're right, but it does. Now it does. We'll talk more back at the house. Sojiro focused on climbing the hill. A slope would get steeper from here to the mansion. The thought of Sojiro climbing this steep hill with her on his back surprised Alice. Let me down. I'm fine. Bitch, no, you are injured. He is carrying your ass up that hill every step of the way. Your whole stomach is exposed. My back will keep you warm. Don't worry, you're lighter than firewood, so this is a cinch. I'm only out of breath from rushing to the park. Not that I needed to hurry in the end. Why not? As soon as I got there, the dogs ran for the hills. I'm sure Toko knew that would happen all along. She must not have meant to finish you off, which means I wasn't on a time limit. I suppose I should be thankful for small mercies, Sojiro said dejectedly, but he was wrong. While Toko did not want to kill Alice per se, she would not have cared if she had died. At least, that was the way Alice saw it. She did not know how long it took Sojiro to get to the park, but if he had not come, the phone booth would have collapsed, and she would be dead. Alice did her best to suppress her thoughts and feelings. She felt silly at the thought of correcting him, and it would matter little anyway. The thought of her trying to thank him was more painful than her open wounds. So, you carried me all the way from the park. Had to. The train stopped running. I should have gotten a taxi, but didn't bring my wallet. Honestly, I never felt how limiting money was until today. For the first time today, Sojiro let out a sigh. There was no point in taking a break. He had already traveled close to 6 miles like this. Perhaps the fatigue was getting to him. Sojiro was more upset with his own weakness than the difficulty of the trek. Don't you mean how important money is? What I mean is, if there's something you can use only if you have money, isn't that incredibly limiting? The innocence of his question made Alice briefly forget her pain. She too felt distant from the real world, but compared to the boy carrying her, she felt like a regular citizen. That's just like you to say. Alice smiled to herself. As Alice rested her hand, something soft touched her cheek. The collar Aoko had given him. Once we get back, you should change and clean up. When you're ready, we can talk in the drawing room. Toko sees me as her enemy now, too. With those words hanging in the air, they reached to the top of the hill. The gate in the woods stood before them. Beyond it, illuminated by the pale moonlight, stood the mansion. Looking up at it, the girl felt like a disappointment. Felt a little disappointed. A natural reaction, yet she could not place where her sadness was coming from. Once they entered the mansion, Alice slid off Sojiro's back and walked towards the west wing. The west wing was her domain. However, after only a few steps, she collapsed to the floor. Alice! Sojiro rushed over to her, but she raised her hand. Her gesture told him he was not to come closer. He stopped in his track, a concerned look on his face. Her pale skin gleamed with sweat, her expression uncharacteristically strained. I'm fine. I can make it to my room on my own. Stay here. I'm going to mend my clothes. I'll be back shortly, and then... The pain looked in Alice's eyes told Sojiro they would talk later. He knew he could not stop her. Sojiro reminded himself that she was the one in pain, not him. Alright then. Tell me everything when you come back. Alice took a deep breath before slowly disappearing down the corridor. An uneventful 5 minutes passed. Alice returned wearing a fresh set of black clothes, but her complexion remained pallid. With a small sigh, she carefully leaned against a pillar on the foyer and slid down until she was sitting. Alice, if you're in pain, you should lie down. Sojiro sat across from her on the cold floor. I'm not in pain anymore, so I don't need to lie down. I was forced to swallow a ruin, so my body can't heal completely. At least let me get in a blanket for you. No, if I stay here, the cold won't bother me. She seemed to be telling the truth. Sojiro remembered Aoko telling him that as long as Alice is inside the mansion, she would be comfortable. Okay, as long as you're warm. So what's this rowan thing? It's a kind of medicinal herb. It gets its name from what's left in the cinders after it's burned 7 times in a stove. And it's used as a ward against spirits. It's not good for regular people, but for me and Aoko it's worse. Once it's in our bodies, it reacts badly to the production of magical energy, and there's nothing we can do but wait it out. So, it's a poison. No. Like I said, it was originally used in medicine. I'm using magical energy to heal right now, so I'm having to fight it, but once I'm fully healed, I'll be fine, as long as I don't use magecraft. Basically, I won't be of any use until I fully digest it. Alice paused. She decided not to say how many days that would take. Anyway, it's nothing you need to worry about. I can manage the pain, it's just a result of my circulation. She worked hard to keep her tone calm. Aoko had barely blinked when she was struck in the back, so mages must have an unusually high pain threshold. Sojiro was surprised and bewildered by what she said. If wounds didn't count as long as the pain wasn't too bad, then nothing would hurt except an injury that killed you. Fine, let's talk tomorrow. For now, I want you to rest. I won't be any better then. It doesn't matter, you need to take better care of yourself. He stood up. I'll take you to your room, or how about the drawing room? I've never been to the West Wing, so I don't know where your room is. I'm fine here. I need to be here when Aoko comes back. Alice looked up at the skylight. The moonlight illuminated her pained face. The foyer looked like it belonged to a run-down castle. Only the moon and Alice seemed more vivid than reality. Where did her strength come from? Sojiro stared at her. Without understanding the significance of Alice's gaze, he turned his gaze to the night sky, powerless as it was. For the third time that night, the silence was broken by the sound of the phone ringing. Before Sojiro could move, a thin shadow bolted across the foyer. By the time he realized it was the weakened Alice, she had already taken the receiver in her hand. Aoko. It was the first time Sojiro had heard Alice's sound concerned. Her tone was infinitely graver than when she was enduring her own pain. Alice's question received only a short response from the voice on the other end. It was a voice more frail than Alice's, like a flickering flame about to turn to smoke. I'm sorry. They got me. The phone was far from Sojiro's ears, but the words he picked up were very unlike her. Despite saying so little, no, because she had said so little. The weight of Aoko's defeat struck Sojiro hard. Alice silently set the receiver down. Only moments before her body had been fighting the pain, now it felt stronger than ever. It was like a scarecrow transforming into a beautiful stone statue. Seeing this, Sojiro finally understood. Alice's expression when she looked at the moon had come from her trying to accept an immutable reality. I need something a little lighter. That just took it out of me. There's nothing else. I really thought Alice was about to die there. And yet there's still so many CGs I have not collected. I don't know how long the next chapter is going to be. So I think today's just going to be a very short stream. Well, make sure to tune in next week. I think the climactic battle is coming up.